Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, how are you doing? My name's James. This is WSI. As you know, I'm sure you tune in every week because I'm very popular. But this time, with all the people that I have on, they've all got one thing in common. They have a penis. They could be wrestlers, they could be referees, they could be managers. But this time, I've got a lady on for the very first time ever. It's only taken me 22 shows to have a lady on. She's, of course, the head cheerleader, the Queen of Extreme, and Miss Montgomeryville herself. It is Francine. How are you doing?
Miss Montgomeryville only lasted like one show. So
it was on your Wikipedia.
So this is the first time a vagina is on your show?
Not quite literally. I believe that's against YouTube's policies, but yeah, it's been a sausage fest of guests on so far.
Well, I'm honored to be the first woman that you have on, so thank you for that. Pleasure to be here.
Right, and sorry, carry on. I'm already interrupting you.
I was just gonna say I can listen to you talk all day. I love the accent.
That's nicer than what most people say. They either say I mumble or someone kept saying, "Oh, you talk too fast. You talk too fast."
I love it. People say that I have the worst accent in the world. They always think I'm from New York. I'm from Philadelphia. I don't know. I think New Yorkers have a very a thicker accent than Philadelphians have. But someone like yourself, I can listen to all day long. So.
I was gonna give you my northeast accent. I was gonna say hello.
Go ahead.
I was gonna go, "What up, dog?"
That's terrible.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I will possibly might even scrub that from the episode, but I'll soldier on in the British tradition.
Okay.
So people do know. I'll actually look at the right camera. I asked you this just beforehand to ask if it was okay, and I thought it'd be nice to just share some nice memories of Shannon Spruill. People remember her as Daphne Unger from WCW. She was in TNA. I think she was in Shimmer, and I didn't realize that you two are actually really good friends.
Yes, we became best friends for the last 20 years, extremely close. I met her for the first time. I don't know the year. I want to say maybe 2001, 2002, something like that. I met her down at Dusty Road's Turnbuckle. They were having a show, and I was there, and she was so cute. She came up to me, and have you ever seen Wayne's World?
Yes, of course I've seen.
Okay, so when they did the "We're Not Worthy," she started doing that, and I was just staring at this girl, and I'm thinking, "What are you doing?" And she just told me how big of a fan she was, and she loved my character, and she loved DCW, and she watched me to learn how to do promos, and she was just so complimentary, and she was going on and on. And I remember us taking a picture together, which I posted. Last week when she had passed away. I posted a ton of pictures of her and I, but we might have exchanged emails, but we didn't keep in touch until after, when we were both in TNA together. We did the first TNA pay-per-view, and we did it was supposed to be a 10-woman lingerie battle royal, but there was only 9 of us. I don't know what happened to the 10th girl. She disappeared. But her and I were in that together, and then we just started talking and became super, super tight. And over the years, we've traveled the roads together. I mean, she's stayed at my house several times. She knows my kids, my husband. She was in my wedding. Very, very close friend. Devastated. The only comfort I have right now is that she's at peace, because she has been struggling with this for so long, and I know that she's at peace now. So.
Yeah, if there's one, and how to say this without sounding without it coming wrong, if there's sort of something that's come out of this, is that a lot of people have shared their own mental health struggles, shared telephone numbers of if you need somebody to talk to. So, and certainly you did. I'm not really a Twitter user at all, really, but I noticed that you posted something and got thousands and thousands of interactions, and people sort of, maybe even like spilling their secrets and worries out to other people as well. So, that sort of got a dialogue going. So that was something, at least, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's they say September is Suicide Prevention Month, but it should be every single day. People struggle every single day with this, and I mean, I have 2 young kids, and I'm terrified. I don't want them to feel like Shannon felt. So I try to be here for them. Both me and my husband, we're very hands-on with our children. I'm always like, something bothering you, please tell me, because it does start at a young age. And it's very sad what these kids have to go through these days. So, like I said, Shannon struggled for years and years and years. And I can't tell you how many times I sat on the phone, whether it was just, the regular telephone call or a video call like this, and just watched her cry for hours and hours. And, I just wish I could have been there for her that day. And I did reach out to her that day earlier in the day, but she didn't pick up the phone.
Yeah. We'll say rest in peace, Shannon.
Yes.
So someone else as well. I will. It's sort of hard to sort of get like a nice segue out of that, but we'll go into some funny stories, because if this podcast is anything, it's just ridiculous stories about crazy people. And unfortunately, he also passed away recently. But whenever anyone mentions his name, New Jack, man, there's got to be a billion stories, spilling out of everyone's mouths of the just wacky stuff he was up to.
Yeah, like Jack was a special kind of guy, because everybody was terrified of him unless you knew him. And if you knew him and you were friends with him and you were cool with him, he wasn't scary. But everybody, when he passed away, I think I was in, I want to say I was in Indiana. I was doing a convention, and I was live on Twitch, and I was just talking on Twitch and showing the fans that were at the convention and stuff. And somebody had said, "Oh, did you hear New Jack died?" And I was like, "What?" And nobody told me yet, and it just broke, and I wasn't online. I was working, and people one by one were coming up to the table, and they were like, "God, he was just a scary man." And I'm like, no, he wasn't a scary man. Like he was a sweet man, and he could wrestle. People were always like, "Oh, he just does that garbage wrestling." No, I've watched him wrestle like real matches, and he could work, and he was great on the microphone, and he was one of the funniest guys that you will ever meet in your life. And so, like, to me, when I think of New Jack, I think of just like a teddy bear, because that's what he was to me. He wasn't scary. He wasn't the gangster that y'all saw on TV. Like, he was a good person to us. Now, I know he had a past, and I know all the stuff that happened, but I'm talking about my relationship with Jack. And he never crossed me, never really did anything horrible to me. So we were friends. And one time there was a chainsaw.
Right.
I know there was a chainsaw in the area, not in the locker room. I forget where he found it. He was running through the arena with a real chainsaw. This was before the show.
Right. Good.
And he's just screaming, "I'm gonna cut every motherfucker in here!" And he's screaming, and he's running. And we were all like, "What are you doing?" He was just trying to be funny. I that terrified me, because it was real and it was on, and I was just like, "You're nuts." You know what I mean? But he would just do all these crazy things just to pop people. And that's how Jack was. So
that's the kind of thing, like when you've got a chainsaw in your hand, and the police ask you, "Where did you get that chainsaw?" I found it.
I don't know where he got it. It was somewhere in the building, and I don't even remember what building we were in, but he had a chainsaw. No one got hurt. He didn't cut anybody with it. It wasn't used in the match. It was before the fans came into the building, and he was just being silly and running around. I mean, somebody could have got hurt, I guess, but we all kept our distance and just let him run his laps. And but that's how Jack was.
Let him run it off, basically.
Yes, get it out of your system. Like a kid who has too much sugar in his system. Just get it out.
Yeah. So can you give me specifically, and I've written this specifically, the best story New Jack and Sandman together? Just the craziest thing that those two together got up to.
Well, I have a story about those two, but it's not a happy story. So we were in the locker room. It was after the show was over. And I remember Sandman, there were like lockers. So I guess it was I don't know if we were in like a gym. I forget where we were. But I remember there were lockers, and Sandman was on one side and Jack was on the other. And I was sitting like between them. And Sandman was telling a joke. And I can't repeat the joke, but it was getting on Jack's nerves. And Jack kept saying, "Say it again." So Sandman would say it again. And Jack would say, "Say it again, hack." Sandman would say it again. And then it got to the point where they started fist fighting over this joke. And I started screaming. I didn't know what to do. Yeah, and they were literally fist fighting over it. And Lance Storm stood in front of me, so I didn't get involved in the scuffle, but I started screaming. Tommy Dreamer was holding our merchandise money, which he dropped, to come see what I was screaming about. And I was screaming because I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh my God. Here, I think a fan picked up the merch money and left the building. So just, was it my fault? Was it their fault? I don't know. I got nervous. I started screaming. They were fist fighting. They were friends after. I mean, they made up a while after that. But I was just like, oh my God, they're pushing each other's buttons. It's going to happen. It's happening. They're fighting. Oh my God. And they went to blows.
At no point did you sort of like, you didn't get to the point where you thought it's going to happen, and then move away before the blows were thrown.
Well, Lance jumped in front of me when he saw Jack get up, and then Sandman got up, because then neither of them will back down from a fight. Like they will go. And I remember Lance just in front of me, he was just like this, let them fight. And I lost it. And I was like screaming. and then when he dropped the money, Dreamer, and he comes running in and he's like, oh shit, the money, and it was gone. So somebody stole our merchandise money, and then they were fighting, and then they had to be separated, and it was just
a costly evening. With all the questions I've got, all the billions of questions I've listed down for you. I'll give the sort of run of the beginning of your career, because I've heard you speak about it before. It basically goes, you'd never heard of wrestling before. You saw House of Hardcore advert on ECW. You decided you really hated working at an insurance place. You meet with Todd Gordon. You're a beauty queen from Montgomeryville, and you get chokeslammed. So that's sort of teeing up the Francine story at the beginning. How was first meeting Paul Heyman at the time? Was he actually the booker at the time when you were there?
When I started, I had met Todd right away, like you had mentioned. And it wasn't the House of Hardcore. It was just called the ECW. I think it was called the ECW Wrestling Academy or something like that. And after I spoke to Todd, I was aware of Eddie Gilbert because Eddie was the booker at the time. But they were transitioning Eddie out and bringing Paul in. So when I was training, I never met Paul. Todd came down, supervised like once or twice. My trainer was JT Smith. So JT was always there helping me. Stevie Richards would come down. I was the only girl there. It was all guys and me. And then when I had my tryout match, it was Todd. So I was trying to learn to wrestle at the time, and they made me wrestle. And right after I was done, I remember running to the bathroom and just throwing up, because my nerves were so bad, and just threw my guts up and came back out. And then I was told that Todd went and talked to Paul. And now I didn't really know of Paul Heyman, because I didn't watch WCW at that time. I used to watch, I was a fan of WWF and Global, the Florida promotion. I watched those two. And I wasn't a lifelong wrestling fan. I had gotten into it late, 18, 19 years old. So now I'm 20, 21. I don't know much about the business. I don't know anybody in the business. And I get a phone call to come to Montgomeryville. And that's where I met Paul. And I remember there were these steps, and then the locker room was at the top. And I went up and I shook his hand and I introduced myself, and he had said, well, he goes, you're going to take a choke slam tonight. And I said, I don't know what that is, because we didn't go over that. And he was just like, what, you don't want to take it? Because that's how Paul, was. I said, no, I'll do it. I don't know, And he said, don't worry. He said, they'll just come and grab you when it's time. So I said, okay. So now I don't know what's going on. I'm the guest timekeeper, which means I'm sitting at that table the whole time. I'm watching matches and whatnot. And they introduced me, and all I'm told is somebody's going to grab me. That's all I'm told. So they introduced me, and I come walking down the steps, and I'm doing this regal wave with I just won, I'm the Queen of England or something. And I went and I sat down and I watched the matches. I rang the bell when I was supposed to ring the bell. And then all of a sudden, it's Al, 911. He comes and he grabs me by my hair and he pulls me in. I had no idea what to expect. And they do the choke slam. And, you know, I'm assuming Paul was watching from the rafters because that's what Paul did. And when I landed, it was that white noise. It was, you heard a gasp and then you heard nothing because nobody knew who I was. I was skinny as a rail. I was like 110 pounds. And they thought he broke me in half. And I was selling, but I was really selling because like it hurt. And they put me on like a stretcher and then they took me to the parking lot and they put me in a car. And I think it might have been Stevie. And they said, drive her right home. She's not allowed to come back to the locker room. Just take her home. And I went home and I was like, okay, what now? I don't know. Like, you know, I assumed I was waiting for a phone call. And I think it was Dreamer. And he called me and he said, come back. We want you here. I don't remember where it was. And okay. And I kept doing house shows for them. And then I was Penny Pulsations. We were at Pulsations nightclub and Penny Pulsations. And I wrestled a match. And I remember Paul telling me, because I was like, am I going to be a female wrestler? Is that what you're going to brand me as? And he said, no. And I said, really? And he said, female wrestling doesn't sell. Women's wrestling doesn't sell. And back then, I guess it didn't at that point. And he said, you're going to be manager. He said, trust me, I know what I'm doing. He knew what he was doing because, you know, like I learned more along the way. I wasn't in school that long in training because like right from training, I think I trained for 2 months and I did my first indie show. And then I started doing shows for ECW. So I didn't even work on indies really. Like one of the guys took me to a show just to get me out there and, you know, so I knew what was going on. But once I started doing shows for ECW, like I just worked for them and I was doing a bunch of house shows. And then a year or so later is when I got on TV.
With Paul, do you have a good story of either trying to get him on the phone and then either him saying, oh, someone else is on the other line, then you can never hear him again? Or did he ever like get some like weird bereavement flights for you or just like some wacky scheme? What were the ones?
So you're familiar with with Paul Heyman, I take it. No, with me, I can always honestly say that Paul picked up for me. Now, I have seen him kayfabe other people. One time, I was standing with him and having a conversation, and I saw Jazz walking up, and he must have owed Jazz something, money. I don't know what he owed her. And, you know, Jazz is very laid back. She's like, hey, Paul, you know, I need to talk. And he real quickly put his phone up to his ear. Like standing there, and he starts talking, and then the phone rang. And Jazz was just like, damn, because she knew he was lying. And I just kind of stood there like, you know, I don't know. But honestly, like he always picked up the phone for me. I didn't have any medical bills. I didn't have any crazy flight things that we had to say somebody died for, but it has happened. Yeah, it has.
Just because you mentioned it, he never owed you any money, did he? Or did he?
Well, no. Now, he did owe me money. I didn't say he didn't owe me any money. I said he didn't. He always paid my medical bills. So anytime I had to go to the hospital for something, like when I broke my hip, I had to go in the ambulance and I had to be rushed over and I had to get crutches and they put me on Dilaudid and all this crazy stuff. And I didn't pay a dime for that. Paul took care of everything. Now, in the end, I was owed over $50,000. So, yeah.
Everyone always has the same thing, and yeah, I think I'm getting this line from somebody else, but they said everyone who Paul has either screwed over or owed money always says it with a smile on their face.
Here's the thing. This is my outlook on it. If it wasn't for Paul Heyman, I would not be chatting with you today. Okay. I was treated like a queen my whole time that I worked there. I was taken care of. I had a great deal I enjoyed what I did. It was the best 7 years of my life, work wise. Now, towards the end, none of us were getting paid. And I never took draws when I was in ECW. And this time they were like, you better start taking some draws or else you're not going to get any money, because we weren't getting paid. It was like 10 weeks in a row. Finally, I went up to him and I said, Paul, we're 10 weeks behind on checks. And I was getting bounce fees, like $35 every time a check would bounce, so they were accumulating. It was a lot, He said, what do I owe you? So I calculated it and I put the bounce check fees in there and I said, here's the amount. Well, he must have went to the merchandise money and he handed me a wad of cash. He said, here. So he made good on that. But there were other things that I was owed that I never got back. And, he took someone like me who had no experience and he made me a star, right? How can I be mad at that? I traveled the world. I went to Japan twice and got to work, which I never got paid for either trip. Japan, I got to wrestle in Canada. I got to go places that a normal person would never get to go. And that's the way I look at it. I met people to this day I call my family. Without Paul, that would have never happened. So in a way, I wish I could get that $50,000, but there's more to life than just money. And I wouldn't have the career and the life that I have today if it wasn't for Paul. So that's the way I look at it.
A very healthy way to look at it as well. Right. Okay. So this is attempt 3.
Yes. I know.
And angle 3 and audio 3 as well. So we shall get through this. We shall persevere. Damn it! We're not going to let.
We shall overcome.
We will not let the elements get us down. Oh my goodness me! Right. So I was actually looking at what to ask you next, and I thought what I'd ask you is I'd tell you a little story really. So when I was in 2000, that was the year ECW pretty much went down. So maybe 2001.
2001.
Yeah. So I just turned 14. Discovering ECW, and let me tell you, I went through all the video. I ended up getting loads of the back catalogue videos. You're going to reprimand me for being too young to watch it, aren't you?
No. One of our pay-per-views it was called Barely Legal. So we never had too many kids in the audience, but I feel like there were a lot of kids who watched.
Yeah. What was the cutoff age? Was it 14 for the arena?
I don't know if we had one. I don't think we had one.
Their money's as green as anyone else's, I suppose.
Yeah, if the father or the mother, we didn't have many women either, but if they wanted to come in, why not? I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, so like when I was just turning 13, 14, ECW was the sex and violence that this very young teenager was very much after at that age. And one of the videos that I bought was November to Remember 95. And you with the pit bulls, and I was. Why did you shake your head then?
I hated the outfits.
I was a fan. What can I say? But you weren't a fan of the outfits.
No, I hated them with a passion. It wasn't. I'm not a dominatrix kind of gal. You know?
Was it leather on the inside as well? And it's just really sticky.
No, I think it had a softer material, but I remember, I was so uncomfortable, but I wanted to like match the guys because that's what you did, I assumed. And I remember Mick Foley just saying, you come to the arena in these sweet sundresses. Why can't you just wear a sundress? And I said, because it won't work, Mick. It just won't work. So.
Well, do you know, that's actually sort of segued into something entirely different I was going to ask. So, like, you're in, let's say, ECW 2300, Alhambra, all the other names, arena you're in. And the sort of gap of the entrance area is quite slim. Were you ever worried that some fan was just going to take a proper grab out of you? Oh,
it's happened.
Yeah.
It's happened in many arenas. Not just the CW one. One time in Boston, I think it was in Revere, Massachusetts. Shane and I were coming to the ring, and I don't know if the guy was like
he must have been aiming for me because I got a sucker punch right in the back of the head, literally, boom. And I felt it and I turned around and it was this, he had long red hair. He was tall. I'll never forget. And I looked and we locked eyes and I grabbed him and I hit his head onto the guardrail. And I held him there. He didn't fight me either. And I held him there and security got him. And, you know, I didn't mind the chance. I didn't mind people calling me names because I was a heel and that's what heels do. You want a reaction. I didn't like being touched. And I thought it was disrespectful. People, I mean, one guy almost ripped my whole dress off my body, just tearing. It's uncalled for. You know, we're out there performing and sometimes getting hurt for your entertainment. And I know it's fun. And I know you hate the bad guys, you love the good guys, blah, blah, but there's no reason to cross the line and try to harm us. So, I mean, there were plenty of times when Shane would get into fist fights and I would just be like, here we go again, you know? But it was a staple with us. And especially that one night when, you know, we did the Gary Wolf with the halo. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I am indeed. I was going to ask you about that, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So, you know, if you ask Gary, it was Shane's fault. If you ask Shane, it was Gary's fault, but the bump went wrong and poor Gary ended up breaking his neck for real. And so he comes back in full halo and it broke my heart because we loved Gary. You know what I mean? Loved Gary. He was great to work with. And that night, there were literally people trying to jump the guardrail. They were grabbing us. And when we're making our exit, I had just taken a bump. So I'm selling. And the way Shane grabbed me, I couldn't get my bearings with my feet. And my feet were like this. Instead of being like this, that you can walk, they were backward, dragging. And he was just holding me under my arms, dragging me. And we had like 20 people around us and people were just grabbing my hair, pulling my hair and punching us. And I was so scared. And I was just like, what is going on? And we finally, we go into the back, we get in the getaway car. The doors are locked and we're trying to open the doors and the doors are locked. We had like the baby faces were chasing us to this getaway car. We can't even get in the car because the doors are locked. And we finally get into the car and Shane's like, check me, am I bleeding? And I said, what? And he says, I don't know. Did I get stabbed? I said, I think you would know if you got stabbed. And he's like, just check. So I'm looking. I said, no, you're fine. But people were like attacking us because they loved Gary so much. And that was real heat. You know, we had to be escorted to our car after the shows. It was crazy. And I'm such a nice person. Like I always wanted to sign autographs. And she was like, no, you can't sign autographs. Go to the car. And that's what you did back then. The heels were heels and the baby faces, they hung out with the fans.
I actually spoke to Larry Zbyszko a few months ago and he has been stabbed and he just said he didn't realize until he got to the back because it just felt like someone had like hit him and punched him basically and he just didn't notice.
Your adrenaline and you're so hyped up over everything. And I mean, like the night that I broke my hip, I felt it. But I didn't know the extent of it until I got to the back. And Paul's like, go to the hospital. I was like, I'm not going to the hospital. And he said, well, if you can walk up the steps, there were these old rickety steps in the back that led to urinals at the top where you can watch the show off the balcony. He said, walk up those steps and you don't have to go to the hospital. And like when I stood up, I could put no pressure on my left side. But when I was out there, it didn't register. So I understand what Jerry means. Like, that's why Shane was like, check me, because he wasn't sure. You know, he said, somebody could have stabbed me. I don't even know. And I was like, nobody stabbed you. Relax. We're not in Puerto Rico. You're fine. So, but it got scary out there.
Yeah, was that the scariest night? So another question that I'm sort of batting back and forth to where I was going.
Yeah.
I know there was a pay-per-view called The Night the Line Was Crossed, but what was like the sort of thing in ECW that you really genuinely thought, damn, the company went too far on that one?
That would be angle wise. That wouldn't really be a fight.
Yes.
Yeah. So what affected me the most was the crucifixion angle. I grew up Catholic. I was a devout Catholic. I'm not so much anymore. I still believe in still Catholic, but that night I just remember hearing a buzz about it. It wasn't my deal, so I really didn't pay too much attention. But we all used to sit in the back in front of the monitor, and we used to watch the show. And when they hoisted Sandman up, I literally, I just let out this, "Oh my God!" And I just looked around, and everybody was just staring blankly at the television. I ran right up to Paul. I said, and he looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, "You have to let Scotty apologize." I said, "That was distasteful even for us." I said, "Because we've done some stuff, right? We've done some stuff and we've pushed the envelope. I know it's wrestling. I know it's all work. This is offensive. It's not only offensive to me, it's going to be offensive to people out there." And I've never seen anybody leave. People were getting up and walking out. That's how bad it was. And, I know some people, they take it like it's only wrestling, or I'm an atheist, or I'm Jewish, or I don't care. Well, for the people who do care, I think it was just a tad too much for me. And I let Paul know. He made Scotty go out and apologize. And it was the worst apology I've ever heard in my life. It was so insincere, but he did it. And that was it. But in my opinion, it's totally distasteful. Hated it.
I'll tell you what then. I didn't think you'd say that. I thought you'd maybe a dive that just went too high, or like something went to an injury. No, that was just the one that was just like no chance. Kurt Angle was in the building as well that night, wasn't he?
Kurt Angle had come, and he's Pittsburgh boy, just like Shane is. So the three of us were standing there talking, and like Shane thought maybe down the line we would do a program with Kurt. Maybe hometown. Facing off against each other or whatever. So we were just standing there talking to him, and he seemed excited to be there. And then that happened, and he was like, "I'm done." And I was like, "Don't blame you." Like, this is your first impression of a company that you're going to work for. Like, and I know WWF had done it. I think they did something with Stephanie on a cross too, which was, in my opinion, distasteful as well. But
it was a symbol.
Yeah,
that's how they got around that one. Apparently,
take it as it looks. I mean, it looked to me like it was a cross, but that religion, I just don't like mixing religion with nonsense. You know what I mean? Like, religion is like a sacred thing to a lot of people. I didn't like the crossover.
No. Okay, then. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to sort of basically throw some random stuff at you. I know there's not sort of non sequiturs and everything, but I was thinking 1996. This is all sort of, just after the Pitbull. No, it's around the Pitbull's time when you joined Shane Douglas and everything. And your memories of Brian Pillman coming to ECW.
So Brian Pillman, I did not really speak to that much. It was kind of like introduced to him high and by. He was in for a cup of coffee. It didn't really last that long, but gosh, he made such an impact in the company. And, there were so many guys that came in and out that we wished would have stayed longer. But we got the rub off them, they got the rub off us, and it worked out well, but I didn't really know Brian well.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of stuff that I'm just going to throw at you, I've got a little sort of game here. It's a game without a name because I called it something and it wasn't. I called it a personality test. It's not a personality test, but I'm going to throw you some sentences and you tell me who best fits the description, and you cannot say yourself.
Okay.
Okay. Funniest person in the locker room?
Chris Candido.
Really?
Yes, he always popped me more so in the ring than anywhere else. But he was such a wonderful person.
I was going to say, give us a joke he told you.
It wasn't so much jokes. It wasn't like he was a stand-up comedian. It was just his antics. And he just made everything more fun, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
He never called matches in the back. And everything was mostly on the fly on the outside, and he would just do things just to pop us that nobody else knew. So he was the best.
And I will ask you I'll say it politely, the wrestler least likely to visit the laundry.
Oh, God rest his soul, probably Balls. I don't think Balls washed his gear much. There were some guys who didn't wash like their knee pads and stuff like that, and they stunk, but at least they would Febreze a little bit. And I think Balls was the one who never really did his laundry, but I loved him.
Here's a controversial one. Biggest stooge for the dirt sheets.
I hate the dirt sheets. I'm not gonna lie. I hate them so much. I don't know. People used to say it was Paul.
I heard Paul as well, funnily enough.
People used to say it was Paul. I don't know. I really can't give you an answer on that one. I know it wasn't me. I know I'm not supposed to answer myself, but I wouldn't give them the time of day usually. So, yeah, I don't know. People used to say Paul stooged his own stuff off. I don't know.
Who was most in trouble with Paul, or most frequently in trouble with Paul?
In trouble?
Yeah, getting the reprimand.
Probably, I don't know. There was incidents with Sabu. There was some with Scotty Raven. I don't know. Paul was usually known as one of the boys. Like, he didn't like being known as the boss. He wanted to be one of the boys more so. So he didn't really act like a boss unless he had to. But there were certain times that, somebody got arrested or we had to break somebody out before the show started, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I've actually asked you this most dangerous situation you found yourself in, but you've already answered that. But you might have already answered this next one, but I do ask this everybody, most memorable backstage fight, but would that be New Jack and Sandman?
New Jack and Sandman, I was right there for. There was also the encounter with Taz and RVD, the pick a hand story.
Okay.
And I was there for it. I don't remember exactly how it went, but I think Rob just went up to Taz and was like, pick a hand. And Taz was like, what? And he's like, pick a hand. And then Rob just slapped Taz across the face. And I don't remember the backstory to it. So that's a shitty story to tell, but that wasn't really a fight, but that was like a face-off confrontation that I was there for. The most memorable thing is probably New Jack and that kid.
Mass transit.
The mass transit incident. I was there. I didn't watch the match. I was in the locker room for it, but that was probably the most brutal thing that happened in or out of the ring. Unfortunate, but.
Have with all the occasionally serious incidents that happen in ECW, did you ever find yourself deposed and had to give interviews to police or anyone else to say what you witnessed?
Not police. I can tell you a funny story if you want to hear one.
Absolutely.
So and I've told this several times, so forgive me if y'all heard it already. There were a bunch of us. We were called the Philly Crew. And we would always fly out of Philadelphia and to whatever destination. And it was always me and Sandman. And then it was usually Jim Molyneux, who was our referee. It was Sign Guy Dudley. It was Steve Carino. It was Jack Victory. Joel Gertner was with us for this, but he wasn't part of the Philly Crew. But I can't remember who else was in this van. But we get off the plane and we have to get a cab to either the venue or our hotel. I don't remember where we were going. We opted for this big van that could fit like 8 people because there was a lot of us and we were all, wrestlers are cheap. No one wanted to pay the $20 to get to the place or whatever. We were going to split it. Okay, fine. We all get in and it's the man was like an Indian descent and had an accent. So you could tell he wasn't from America.
Is this dots or feathers? Dots. Yes.
Dots.
Yeah, it's the old saying, dots not feathers, isn't it? Like an Indian dot rather than feathers like a Native American.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Not a. Ooh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm like, wait a minute. So anyway, we all get in this van, and the man starts speaking to us, but we couldn't understand him because his accent was very thick. And so Hack has no filter, and he starts calling him Habib, which is not probably his name. I don't know what his name is. And they start getting into a fight, and they're going back and forth. And with that, the driver calls the police. Sandman has a bunch of drugs on him. He gives his drugs to me and says, put them in your bra and your underwear. And I go, because I guess he thought he was going to be the only guy getting in trouble because he was fighting with this gentleman. So it's like, I have pill bottles. I have this baggie. I don't know what, I wasn't a drug person, so I don't know what's in these containers. So I put some in my bra. I put some in my underwear, and, I hear a police car, and we're like, oh shoot, he really called the police. He's out, the man gets out of the cab, and he's circling, he's walking. And, I'm sorry. And I forgot to say, before they start fighting, he pulled off, but as they started fighting, he just circled around and parked right back to where we started. So we didn't get far at all. With that, when the policeman gets out of his car, there's a dog. So it's a sniffer, a drug dog. And the dog starts walking to the van. So now I start crying because I'm like, I have drugs in my clothes. They're yours. This dog is going to sniff me. I'm going to go to jail for you. Don't worry about it. I'll say it's mine. You're not going to go to jail. I almost pooped my pants. Like, I was so scared. And I just sat, and I was in the back of the van, and I just sat there, and then like Hack got out, and they all talked to this man, and the police officer said, just go get another van. Go get another van. Cause I think Hack told me, look, we're wrestlers. That always gets you out of a bind, Thank God he took the dog, and he put the dog back in the car, because I ran with the stuff all in my bra and my panties, and we got in another van and we took off. But I mean, come on, like that was too close to call for me. It was a lot.
When you were walking, I mean, was anything in a tube? So when you walked, it went shh, shh, shh.
Probably. I think it was like 2 pill bottles, some weed. I don't know what would. I don't know. I remember the baggie. I think I put in my underwear because I was just sitting there. I thought it would be like a 2-minute thing and we would take off. But no, I still have the dog, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's a drug dog," and I was like, "Oh my God, is this a rib on my life? Like, what's going on?" So yeah, it was scary.
I'll give you another, maybe slightly debauched question then. The most amusing or strangest thing you saw in the Cylinder of Sin, the hotel.
The travel lodge.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. There was a lot of sexual acts being done, and I saw some girls doing some stuff to some people, and I never really I didn't partake. It was always like me and the wives, and then whoever was doing with whoever. But sometimes the doors would be open, and then you'd get one of the boys say, "Oh, look at this one, look what they're doing," and then like 4 or 5 girls would walk up and just be like, "Oh," walk away. But they're Joel Gardner always, I think it was either Joel or Mimi, says that place needed a condom over the whole thing because it was disgusting. It really was. It was such a disgusting hotel. So, ugh.
I'll give you biggest ribber or best rib pulled on you.
Pulled on me? Oh, not many ribs were pulled on me. I think that cab one might have been. I don't know.
That was a stiff one.
I can tell you one that was pulled on somebody else that was funny and sad at the same time. Balls Mahoney again, God rest his soul. We were at the Minocqua, Pennsylvania. So it's Pittsburgh. the big Golden Dome where we used to do our TV, and we had a pay-per-view. And they had a beautiful locker room with showers and everything. And Balls comes back and he's bloodied, like so bad. And he's just standing there at first. And we're like, Balls, go take a shower. Like, you're gross, you know? And he goes, no, I got to do an interview and I'm getting promo pics done. And I want my blood to show and all this stuff. And like, he was in the middle of the night, like the card. And I was like, oh my God, you have to wait like 2 hours. You're not going to take a shower. And he was like, no, I'm just going to wait. So we're like, whatever. So he's standing there and the 2 hours go by and he does his whatever he had to do. And I'm sitting there and he comes walking in naked, crying like a baby. And I said, Balls, what happened? What's wrong? You guys ribbed me. I can't find my gear. You ribbed me. And we're like, and he's just covered in blood. His gig is like wide open. And he's naked, you know, he's naked. And I said, nobody ribbed you. What is the problem? He goes, my bag. I lost my bag. No one can tell me where my bag is, blah, blah, blah. And like a half hour goes by and he's just sitting in his own filth, crying his eyes out. And we looked around, we all get up and we look around and somebody found it. They're like, is this yours? Oh yeah, I forgot I moved it. And we're like, so he basically ribbed himself. But we were ribbed because we had to look at him for all that time, bloody and completely naked with his junk hanging out. And it was just a sight to be seen. So
the one thing that always amused me about Balls Mahoney is that he was actually a pretty good wrestler. And he was like a good amateur wrestler as well. I always find that so crazy.
He started with Chris when they were like 14, 15 years old doing their own shows. And it's amazing how much he could do, just like New Jack, but they went the opposite way and they got over for the blood and guts wrestling, so to speak. So, yeah, Balls could go.
Yeah, you give the fans what they want rather than what you can do, I suppose. A couple more. Biggest ladies man.
Gosh, too many to mention.
You don't know who may have had a wife at the time.
Oh, a lot of them. I take that to the vault.
Okay, then. Fair enough, then. Right, okay, that's sort of the end of that game. And it sort of sputtered out at the end, rather.
I'm sorry.
We didn't quite know what we were saying.
With that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'll ask you this, then. And this is something I always find particularly interesting, is Todd Gordon. And somewhere in 96, 97, he is exposed, in the words of Paul Heyman, as a mole in the locker room. What's the real story of what's going on there? Because he wasn't a double agent, obviously.
So I heard the voicemail. I had to go to it was Ron Buffone's parents' house where we did the editing for the show. That's where the show all came together, and we would film in the basement. When you saw the banner, it was a shoot. Like sometimes his mom would be ironing while we would be doing our stuff. She'd be in there. She would feed us. I'd slept on the couch many times. Like it was a family. But we were all, a lot of us were there. We heard the voicemail that was left. I don't know how Paul got into the phone to hear that, but I heard it. And it was basically Todd and I believe Fonzie talking about jumping to WCW. So I guess it was Todd was trying to pull talent to go with him to that, which I don't even think Todd ever went there. So I don't know. I don't know what happened with all that, but I did hear the voicemail.
Yeah, something to the effect of that I understand is he was facilitating people to go to WCW, and he was like a liaison to WCW.
Yeah, like deals.
Yeah, sort of the middleman and sort of doing it off his own back for people who wanted, to go over there.
Yeah, basically. But I don't know what was in it for Todd. I mean, I don't know if he was promised like a huge payday. I just remember hearing that and we were all just like, wow, and then I was told that the reason why Fonzie didn't lose his job is the match that he had with Beulah. He gigged so bad on purpose just to show them, I'm sorry. That's what I was told anyway. And then they didn't let him go because of that match.
He didn't look like he had a lot of blood in that body either to give.
He's so skinny. And I love Fonzie. Fonzie's a good friend of mine, but I don't know what was going on at that time. So I don't know what they were thinking. But, I never faulted somebody for leaving. If you can find more money, go ahead, but just do it the right way.
Yeah. I'll completely non sequitur again. I'm just throwing questions out at you. This is something I'm interested in. You never had a doll action figure with ECW, did you?
I didn't. And they did take the pictures because we didn't have enough money to do the scans. So they took a bunch of pictures of me. And then they said, when the line came out, they said, we don't think the women dolls will sell, or the women action figures. I get in trouble. I say doll all the time.
Oh, I say doll with the fellas.
Yeah, I do too. We don't think it'll sell. And so they didn't make the girls. Right. They didn't make the girl. And I got my first action figure last year.
Yeah, through
Figures Toy Company. Yeah.
So I'll go to sort of like what follows onto this is, what were royalties like in ECW? I'm not asking for specific numbers or anything, but there was a couple of computer games. There was obviously merchandise, pay-per-view residuals and stuff like that. How much of your pay packet came from the merch and royalties line?
So I can say none. Because with me, that $50,000 was a lot of things that were owed to me that were promised and I never got. Mm-hmm. So for example, every pay-per-view, we did 21 pay-per-views. I was supposed to get a $3,000 bonus. Never got it. I just got my nightly. Some people were on a weekly. I was on a nightly for whatever reason. I was owed, I don't know if the video game stuff and the t-shirt stuff, but I really never got any bonuses while I was there.
No. Did you have any merch dedicated to you?
Yeah, I had t-shirts, and then we were allowed to sell our own like 8x10s. So you can put out whatever you wanted on the merchandise table, and then they produced my t-shirts for me.
Yeah, it wasn't like Smoky Mountain where you'd have to man the table yourself, was it?
Well, we used to. We had a girl named Bella. She would take care of everything. And then sometimes we were allowed to run out during intermission and sell our stuff. I know if I was with somebody that was injured, usually it was either Shane or Dreamer. They were injured a lot. That would be our thing because we weren't on the show. So we would do the merch table and push the merchandise for Paul. But we were always allowed to sell our own 8x10s and stuff, which was nice because that was extra money.
Yeah. So did you feel when you were sort of manning the table or womaning the table yourself, did you feel like it sort of like took away from your aura a bit? Or I imagine you sold more when you were selling them yourself.
Yeah. When you do merch, you don't want the crowd to see you until you walk through the curtain, so to speak. So when I would do merch, I would try maybe not to wear the same outfit that I would when I was going to come out. So it would be something different, just because you want that pop when you come through the curtain. Yeah. But there were times when you couldn't go out because if you had a lot to do that night and people were going over stuff, then you had to stay in the back and go over your match, so to speak. And then, of course, if somebody was at the table that you were not supposed to be friends with, you couldn't go there because your arch enemy was there and stuff like that. But I mean, to me, that was fair of Paul to let us, make a little money. He also let us in the beginning. We used to do Polaroids in the ring. Oh, yeah. So we would come to the ring and we would have the fans come in and do Polaroids and we'd split the money with him and just little extras. But as far as anything I was promised, I didn't get it.
Not quite so much then.
No.
As with all my random questions, this is another random one. Who was your favorite, either celebrity or famous wrestler who came in to do one or two shots to ECW and you were just like, yes, you were great?
Wow. Well, celebrity wise, not that she was my favorite because I loved her or anything, but she was my favorite to watch. It was Divine Brown.
Oh,
and
God.
I don't know if you remember.
I was 9 when that was on that was headline news when Hugh Grant had a tickle with Divine Brown. But I remember it when I was 9 on the news. Yeah,
she was. she couldn't even walk in the ring. And that's why I found it so charming. Like, she had these heels on and she was falling all over the place when she got in the ring, and Stevie literally had to like grab her arm and hold her up because she was about to face plant. But I had met her. She was a nice lady. She had asked me to do a movie. I think she was just getting into the adult entertainment business, and she's like, "Oh, you look cute. Would you like to do something with me?" I was like, "Oh, I think I'll stick to the wrestling, thanks." But she was like just a trip. She was a trip to watch. But as far as like wrestlers that came in and out, the one that I found to be great, like everybody was great, but like Scott Hall was so fun to work with. I never thought I'd get to work with him. And, there was an incident with Scott earlier on when he came to a match that it was, I don't know, 96, 97, something like that. Shane and Scott didn't get along at all. And, the click and holding Shane down and all that stuff. And so PJ, I think Just Incredible had invited Scott to come to watch the show, and he had his kid with him. And all that was said was Scott Hall's in the building while Shane grabs all of us. I don't know why I had to go because I'm just a girl, like who cares? But it was me and Shane and Chris and Bam Bam. And I feel bad. Like Scott was just like, I just want to watch the show with my kid, and then I turn around out of line. I admit it. And I said, then go stand in line with the rest of the marks and buy a ticket. And the whole place went, ooh, because all the boys were watching. And one person giggled, and it was Taz. And he giggled when I said that. And like Scott just shook his head, and the boys were cursing him. And I thought they were going to come to blows. And then he walked out, So and he came back a second time, and that's the night he was inebriated and was just drunk and kept poking his head out of the door, and the fans would see him during matches and stuff like that. But then when he came to work, I literally put my tail between my legs and I apologized. And I said, I am so sorry. I said, those guys were like my brothers, and I was just trying to stand up for them. I said, I should have just minded my own business. It wasn't my fight to fight, And I told him, if you want to give me the razor's edge tonight, I will gladly take it from you. And he turns around and he says, I'm just going to make out with you a little bit. And I was just like, and he didn't even do that. We did a spot where he grabs my thong and he just gives, like, he spanks me. And it was very, very innocent and fun. And he couldn't have been more of a gentleman. So, you live and you learn, but I should have never opened my mouth. And I apologized.
Yeah, I've never heard that story before as well. Mm-hmm. I only vaguely remember Scott Hall being there once, and he's just got his jeans on. He does the thing, and that's about as much as I saw.
He worked 2 shows for us, 2 house shows. And then he was talking about working a pay-per-view because he wanted to get the ring rust off. But then I don't know if Paul didn't have the money. I don't know what happened, but he didn't come back after that. But I tell you what, those 2 house shows got a surprise, because nobody expected Scott Hall to be in the building. So that was fun.
Yeah, I noticed that sort of weird time when like Scott Hall would show up, and then Sid turned up for like 1 or 2 matches, and then
Sid was with us for a cup of coffee. He was there for a little bit, and we, Steve Austin came in and out and put Mikey over for the belt, and there was just a lot of big names that came in and out. We had Chris Jericho for a little bit. But you can't blame these guys. The money was better elsewhere, and they became huge stars. So,
cool. Okay, right. We'll roll 10 minutes then. So I will do the what I call the firing line. It's the main event of every podcast I do. And if we've got any time, I'll ask you a couple more after it. And it's sort of like the personality test that isn't a personality test. I will just give you some names, and they're all the women of ECW. If you've got a funny story about any of them, please throw it in. I know you don't like to bury people, so you can just ask me to pass if you're not interested in talking about them, but I'm going to give you a load of names, and the first one is Elektra.
Elektra. When I think of Elektra, I think of her boobs. She always did this thing where she would put her arms up and she could make her boobs. But Donna was sweet. I really got along with her. She was fun, and her New York accent got me every time. I loved hearing her. So she's a lot of fun. I heard she works for Disney now, so hopefully I'll bump into her somewhere.
As what? What does she
I think
work
she's working at one of the hotels or something.
Right, I was thinking like as one of the princesses, like on the hourly.
No, I want to be the evil queen. Like that's what I'm lobbying for. But I think she works at one of the hotels down there.
Okay, Kimona, Wanalea.
Kimona, I hung out with her a couple times. She was a sweet girl. She was very young when she came in. I think she was like 19 years old. Yeah, she stayed. She was with us for a while, and then I know she went to WCW and did her thing as Leia Meow, I think they called her or something. But I think she was cute as a button, cute little thing. She was like 4 feet tall. She was sweet. I didn't have any problems with her.
Peaches, is that Laurie Fullington?
Yeah. I loved Laurie. Yeah, Laurie was great. I think I got to work. Yeah, I got to work with her once at the arena, and I think I had to give her like a DDT or something. But yeah, she was great. I wish I could have worked with her more. She was a nice lady.
Here's one that I never saw, and I've only seen like a couple of pictures. Miss Patricia.
Yeah, I liked her too. She was the meanie babe. So she was the Blue Meanies valet for a while. And I didn't have a problem with her either. She was really nice. She didn't stay very long, but I got along with her, and she was sweet.
I've switched up who's going to be the last one here, so I'll skip this person. I'll move on to the next one. Did you know Nancy Sullivan, woman?
I did.
Well, yeah.
I did. When I first started, like Nancy was the girl. She was like the girl in the locker room, the woman. Hence her name, Woman. I only got to work once with her, and I think she got to cane me that night. But she was funny and sweet, and she liked to drink. So by the time we would do our promos, she'd be like singing Frank Sinatra songs, and she'd be in a world of her own. But yeah, Nancy was she was a nice lady, you know. I wish I got to work with her more than I did. And I don't know if you have this person on the list. I'm just going to say it right now. Sherry Martel.
No, I don't. I don't.
So Sherry was my everything. Like she was my favorite person in wrestling, not even female, like my favorite person. Like I loved her. And my character, I wanted to be like Sherry, but I wanted to be sexy like Nancy. And I put those two together, and I came up with me. Yeah. Little tidbits I would watch. But I got to meet Sherry one time, and it was the last night that she was in ECW, and she grabs me and she says, "Oh, you got long hair. We're going to get in that ring, and we're going to grab each other's hair. We're going to roll around, and we're going to do all this stuff together." And I was just so excited because I was like, I get to work with Sherry Martel, like awesome. And then she starts telling me all these stories, and she's telling me that she went to Japan and she drank the whole flight. And then by the time she got to Japan, she was drunk as hell, and she doesn't even remember the match. And then I got scared because I was just like, is that what's going to happen with me when we work together? Are you going to be super drunk? But she was super nice. And then like when I got there the next week, they were like, "Oh, she works for WCW now. She's with Harlem Heat." And I was like, no, she was supposed to work with me. And I never got to work with her, but I am so grateful that I got to meet her and talk to her. So
I asked somebody else recently who knew her in the 90s in WCW, Carl Willett, PCO. And and he said, I mentioned Sherry Martel to him, and he went, crazy, wild. She would get naked anywhere.
Oh, well, I didn't see her get naked, but, it doesn't surprise me.
I was just like, you go, girl. Seriously.
Yeah.
Anytime. Exactly. I'll do a few more. Nicole Bass.
Oh, Nicole Bass. I tried to help Nicole as much as I could. She didn't get it. When she first got here, she was so used to like the bodybuilding, you know what I mean? And like like I remember we were in the car and she didn't feel like she had to pay for anything. Like she thought that she should have all of her expenses paid for like right away, no paying dues, no anything. And I was trying to explain to her like, no, this isn't bodybuilding. And she's like, well, in bodybuilding, they would send me a car and they would pick me up with a car. And now I have to go rent a car and all this. And I was like, well, that's the way it is here, you know? And then she wanted all of us to like remember everybody's spots so we can all help each other. And I was like, no, Nicole, you just remember your spots, because that's the boys will remember their spots and you remember yours. I don't think she understood, you know what I mean? Like, she didn't really get the business. But every time it was Halloween, and every time somebody would see a picture of Frankenstein, they would just look at her and go, ho, 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 and she would get so mad. She would get so mad.
It was her own fault. I mean, she made herself look like that in the first place. She didn't have to.
Well, I don't know. She had a good heart.
Yeah.
I feel like I just feel like she didn't really understand what the business was about. No. So.
Okay, as we are a bit tight for time, I'll give you 3 more, and I shall ask you for your plugs, and we shall call it a day. I will give you Lita.
Oh, she was fun to work with. She wasn't there too long when she first came to us. She didn't have much experience. I think she was like wrestling maybe in Puerto Rico for a while, or Mexico, or something like that. Yeah. Mexico, yeah. But she came in and her character was hysterical. I mean, she's clipping toenails on, she would clip her toenails on camera, and Miss Congeniality was the gimmick that she was given. So I worked with her a couple of times, and she was fun. And when I see her now, we give each other a hug and stuff like that. So I'm happy for her success.
Penultimate, Beulah. I know you were, was she your first match, Beulah? Or was this televised at least?
That was my first angle. It was Beulah and I, and we were sort of married. And when I say that, I mean, we worked together for the whole time that she was in the company, because then she left and then I had to move on. But I mean, for 3 years, it was just her and I, and we would do a couple things on the side, but I think they loved seeing her and I together. And because we were the 2 OGs that started the whole catfight wars, and she was always great to work with. And the catfights were not realistic looking, because we would just laugh the whole time that we were doing it. But she was a pleasure.
And the end one, there was actually 2. I'll give you 2. You can talk about either one, either Tammy Sitch or Jenna Jameson. Oh,
okay. So Tammy, loved working with her. I still talk to her to this day. I think we are doing WrestleCade together in November. She's still a good friend. She was at my wedding. And everybody warned me about her, how awful she was, but she wasn't. And she's been a friend of mine for over 20 years. And I love her. Still love her. And Jenna Jameson, I talked to a little bit. We both had gotten tattoos, not together. But we had just prior gotten tattoos like before the show. I remember we were showing each other our tattoos and stuff.
It's not like the same tattoo. It's friends forever sort of thing.
No, we did not get each other's initials on her. I had gotten one. A bunch of us went out. I got one, and then she had one. She's like, "Oh, look at mine," and I was like, "Oh, cool." And that was pretty much it. So I don't really know her, but I don't have anything bad to say about her.
Well, you've got matching tattoos and you've got a story to share with it, but
don't have matching tattoos, but we each have a tattoo.
You've got tattoos that don't match, but you got them at the same time, so they're like kindred tattoo spirits, or
okay.
Let's call it that, shall we? I'll do the sign off now. Oh, actually, sorry. Any plugs you'd like to get out there? Please do.
Yes, please. On social media, all accounts, you can follow me at ECW Diva Francine. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. And I'm on Facebook. It's a fan page on Facebook. What else? I do Cameo. If you're interested, you can go to my Twitter page and just click on the link and order Cameos. I do one-on-one calls on Cameo, and I also do the regular Cameo greetings on there. And then I have a bunch of appearances coming up, too many to mention, but you can see them all on my Twitter page. So just go, Twitter has everything. Just go to ECW Diva Francine.
See, on my script.
Oh, please.
Oh, go on.
Yes. One more. My Eyes Up Here podcast.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're doing this straight after
I'm doing this. I have to jump on. Eyes Up Here. We have a podcast and a Patreon page. It is www.patreon.com/Francine podcast if you're interested. And the regular podcast is on the Creative Control Network.
Yeah, I was trying to show you beforehand that I've got a piece of paper that just says in bright green plugs, and I still nearly forgot. So
One more.
Go on.
I have new T-shirts. I'm sorry. I have T-shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees, but I have new T-shirts on the UK site, which everybody thinks it's just for the UK, but it's not. It's Wrestle Merch Central, and the link is on my Twitter page as well. I have 6 new designs. They are awesome. One has the Union Jack on it because I thought of my UK friends, and they're beautiful T-shirts, and I love them, and I hope everybody gives it a look.
Right, so
there you go. I'm done.
That was a lot of plugs. I'll do my best to link them in the descriptions. But for now, on behalf of Francine, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you next week. Cheers.